Everyone was asleep. Inside the house, everything was unusually quiet. The doors were closed. The lights were off. It looked like an ordinary night. But someone was already inside. There were no screams, no signs of escape. By morning, no one inside was left alive. June 1912. A small town in Iowa, Villisca. People knew each other, by face and by name. It was the kind of place where doors were left unlocked. As the sun went down, the town grew quiet. Lights went out and curtains were drawn. That evening, inside the Moore family home, everything felt normal. Dinner was still warm and the children shared stories from their day. Soft laughter filled the room. Nothing felt out of place, just the end of another day. That night, 2 young guests stayed over, friends of the children. Beds were prepared, blankets laid out. 8 people, 1 house, 1 night. They all went to sleep. The lights went out and the house fell silent. No one knew this would be their last night. One by one, the lights went out. Darkness slowly filled the house. Moonlight slipped through the window, spilling across the hallway floor. A clock could be heard. Tick, tick, tick. The entire town was asleep. And then a sound, small, almost nothing. A door shifted. Creak. Someone was inside. Footsteps, careful and measured, barely touching the floor. He moved without hesitation, like he already knew the house. Through the hallway, he paused, listening, as if counting each breath in the dark. But no one woke. The house remained still. Too still. Almost wrong. He moved slowly, down the hallway toward the stairs. He stopped, then stepped up. Creak. The wood responded softly, and the sound lingered. 1 step, then another. Light steps, but they carried weight. He held his breath as he moved upward. The air felt colder. At the end of the hall, a door. He stopped. His hand reached out. The handle was cold. The metal pressed into his fingertips. It turned slowly. The door opened. Darkness slipped in first. Inside, children slept, close together, breathing softly. A steady rhythm, unaware, deep asleep. He stepped inside. The floor shifted just slightly, and then he stopped. Time seemed to hold. Nothing moved, nothing changed, but something in the air began to shift, quietly, unseen. That night in that room, something irreversible began. And when it ended, nothing was left. Only the air in that house was different. Morning came. The sun rose, and the town came back to life. Doors opened. Footsteps returned. People woke and began their day. But that house did not. It stayed still. The door remained closed. No one came out. Something felt wrong. A neighbor slowed in front of the house, stopped, watched. Too quiet. No movement. After a moment they approached. They knocked. No answer. They knocked again. Still nothing. The handle turned. Unlocked. Slowly the door opened. They stepped inside. The air felt different. Cold. Heavy. No sound. Only their own footsteps, echoing faintly. They moved deeper inside, and then they stopped, frozen, unable to move. For a moment they didn't understand what they were seeing, and then they did. Everything was already over. Police arrived. Inside the house, nothing appeared broken. Furniture remained in place. Objects sat where they should. No clear signs of struggle, but something was wrong. On the table, unfinished food remained, bread left half-eaten, utensils resting where they were dropped, a plate slightly turned, as if moved in a hurry. The food had gone cold, not recently, but long enough to feel abandoned, as if someone had stood up midway through and never returned. Everything felt suspended. A chair sat slightly out of place, not pushed back, but turned, angled away from the table, as if someone had remained there longer than they should have, long enough to leave a presence behind. Only the trace remained. But that wasn't all. There were other signs, harder to explain. Mirrors were covered, carefully, not randomly. Cloth placed with intention. Windows were blocked, curtains pulled tight. Light was kept out. Even during the day, the house stayed dim. Not dark by chance, but by choice. There were no signs of haste, no overturned objects, no broken patterns. Nothing suggested panic. Instead, it felt controlled. Objects were shifted slightly, a few inches here, a different angle there. Not scattered, not arranged, just altered. Touched more than once, moved more than needed, again and again. Movement remained, not once, but repeatedly. And none of it felt rushed. It felt deliberate, measured, slow. As if someone had time, as if someone stayed long enough to become familiar with the space. The investigation began. The town started to fracture. Names were spoken. Neighbors, strangers, and those who had once been inside that house. There wasn't just one suspect. There were many. Some stood out. People who changed after that night. People who avoided eye contact. People whose answers never stayed the same. Some spoke too much, offering details no one had asked for, explanations that came too quickly, and some who seemed to know what hadn't been said. At first, people believed someone would be caught, that the truth would surface. But time passed, and nothing held. No evidence stayed. No story remained consistent. Suspicion lingered, but certainty faded, and slowly the names began to disappear, one by one. Time passed. Days turned into seasons, but the case remained. At first, there was anger, questions, demands, a need for answers. Then came fear. Doors were locked earlier. Lights were left on longer. People began to watch their surroundings more closely. And eventually, silence. The kind that replaces conversation. People spoke in whispers, if they spoke at all. Some stopped mid-sentence, as if saying too much felt dangerous. Others chose not to speak at all. Records remained, but the truth did not. The house still stands. Dark windows, closed doors. The paint has faded, but the feeling has not. People pass by and look away, not because they don't care, but because they remember. There are too many things that don't make sense. No one woke. Not a single interruption. The silence was never broken. Why didn't he leave? Why stay in a place he should have escaped? Why remain inside that house for so long? The traces suggest not movement through, but presence, a pattern of staying. That night, he didn't leave. He stayed, not briefly, not by accident. He remained, and that changes everything, because it means he wasn't just there. He was there on purpose, but no one knows why. And that is why this case still remains. That night did pass. Morning came. Town moved on. But something didn't. The truth was never found. The person was never caught. Time moved forward, but this case did not. The house remains. Old walls, narrow halls, creaking stairs, and closed rooms. Everything looks the same, unchanged. From the outside it feels ordinary, but inside, something still lingers. Not visible, not spoken, but present. An unexplained night that never truly left. A maybe that's why this case still remains. Because every case has an end, but not every case has an answer. Some remain unexplained, remembered only as questions. That night, inside that house, someone entered, someone stayed, and someone never left. The truth was never found. So the question remains, what really happened that night? Maybe the answer is still somewhere, even now inside that house.
This story ends here, but in the darkness, stories remain. Will you stay for the next one? Dark Case Hub.